Well, welcome back to Cope and Land. So I hope you're ready to laugh a little today, get real, be inspired, have a lot of fun because our guest today, Jennifer Leath, is all of the above. She grew up an Army brat. She has a biology degree. And so she's a pretty smart lady, I would say. She is also a homeschooling mom of five teenagers. Wait, all teenagers, Jennifer?
Well, the youngest is almost 9.
Almost not. Okay. Well, 9 and above, five. That's quite impressive. She's been married for 19 years. And also Jennifer has been in the same industry as myself of network marketing and has been a top earner for 8 years. She works from home. It's her dream job and she loves changing lives. So welcome, Jennifer. Thank you for being here with me today. With
This
all
is
of us.
the first time I've ever done anything like this.
It's the first time you've ever been on a podcast?
Yeah. To
Really?
help overcome a fear.
Hey, well, we have to do that. Well, believe me, doing this alone was really scary for me. So I can identify where doing something for the first time is a little, you don't know what to expect. So there can be a little fear, but I say, let's have some excitement about it instead of nervousness. Because
Okay.
you make me pee my pants laughing. I'm not going to kid you. And you inspire me, like I said at the start of this. And you're just a really well-rounded woman who you know what I love most about, well, there's lots of things I love about you, but is that when I see you, I see such transparency and you just speak your truth and you're real. And I think that is probably why I'm drawn to you and why those of you listening today will be very drawn to Jennifer too. So anyway, I just admire that about you.
That's a huge compliment because it's funny, that word is just so popular. It's authentic and transparent and being real. And so then people try to be authentic and transparent and real, but it's the way they've branded that. Like, I'm going to tell this very deep story about myself. Like, I'm going to let you just this much. And I feel like I've been thinking about this. Where did that come from? Where I just don't mind letting people see the whole story. And I figured it out.
Okay, well, tell us. Tell me. I'm dying to hear.
And if my mama listens to this, she'll either love it or she'll kill me. I'm not sure which one. But here's the crazy thing. My mom was 15 years old when she had me. And so if you can imagine what that probably was like for her, just mix in the disappointment of her parents and the shame and the embarrassment, all of that. And she raised me in such a way. She went to night school to get her nursing degree. I remember her leaving and going and taking classes. She never gave up. She's now like the director of her hospital. And what I think is my mom always taught me things are hard. Sometimes we make mistakes, but we pick things back up and we keep moving forward and we never give up. And so I guess I just assumed that's how people were. And I'm learning now, especially looking at my kids, they haven't had to go through that hard. They haven't had to see that.
Right.
So how do I pass that down to them? So that's a really personal conversation about being transparent. I'm glad you said it.
Yeah, well, it's very evident in all that you do. I follow you on social media. If you don't currently follow Jennifer on social media, Jennifer, how can they follow you? You're on Instagram, Facebook,
At Jen Leath and on Facebook.
Okay. Well. Yes, and so I love following you. Sometimes you're hilarious. You get real. And so with your children, you say you want to pass that down. Like, so how do you do that? I mean, just by being you, obviously, but are you very intentional about it? Or do you just kind of keep going on about your day to day and letting it roll? I mean, what does that look like?
So that was the blind assumption that everyone was like that. And even with my own children, I just assumed they were always being open, always being transparent. And it wasn't until actually I have 3 teenage sons and I feel like they're open and transparent. And here comes my daughter, my first daughter. And I'm realizing she's not being 100% open with me. And the reason that I know that is she never would let me see her struggle. She would never let me see the hard. And I knew there was hard. And as I learned about the Enneagram, I thought, I think that girl is a 3. I think she lives her life on a stage and she doesn't want to flub a line. And she needs to be free from that in some ways. It is who she is, but she also needs to be able to say, I don't understand this, or this is hard, or I made a mistake. And so I've been coaching her through being able to be okay with accidents and mistakes and what we would quote unquote call a failure. And I've been so open. She's like, Mom, too much. Don't need to know that. about things that I've done in my life that I always stop and say, well, what is this here to teach me? Like, why did this thing happen? And what is it here to teach me? And become almost like I'm studying my own life or studying a circumstance and then growing from it. Because what other choice do we have? Just stay where we are, stay in the muck or stay in the hard, or learn from it, grow from it, and maybe pass that gift to someone else.
And let us save it. So, okay. So I did grow up not wanting people to see my failures. I grew up trying to mask it all, cover it, like just until more recently. I think over time and as I've aged and matured, I've slowly been able to come to the place I am today where I'm like, here I am, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, but what a beautiful thing that you had that opportunity. And now with your daughter that you can recognize that in her and then teach her. I love that. So growing up then with a mom, you said she was 15 when she had you.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that and what that looked like for you? Are you open to that?
Yeah, I actually think about those memories a lot. At the time, I didn't understand, but as I became a mom, I would do this math in my head. I'm like, if I were my mom at this age, how old would all of us be? So I think about me and my siblings, and I'm like, oh my gosh, she would have had like a 13-year-old when I first started having babies. And so I think, how did she do that? Because I
Yeah.
would tell you, she was an amazing mom, and she did not have that example. She was everything you'd want a mom to be. She was always there. She helped with homework. She made the meals. She did everything, and also was very driven. She wanted her own personal success. And I almost think when she had me, she told me this story that she was in the hospital. She was about to give birth. She was in so much pain. I broke her tailbone. She's 15 years old, and she's asking for some sort of anything. What can I have to help with this pain? And the nurse that was there said, we don't give medicine to, and you can fill in the blank. And that was how she was labeled when she gave birth to me. And she told me that story. And maybe that's where my transparency came from, because she always told me everything. I could have just know that she left everything on the table. There was nothing that she was holding back from me. And I think about her experiencing that and still moving forward. Like she didn't say, I can't do these things because I'm just a fill in the blank. She's like, no. And she knew she was called for more. And my sister is just as driven and very successful. She passed this gift down to us, and I can only hope and pray that God's going to allow me to do that same thing for my kids.
Well, so she just innately had this in her. It wasn't, you said, through her upbringing. So that's divine. It was divinely kind of handed down to her, right? Like just who she was born to be. And she allowed herself to show up in that way. And then passed it on to you. And that's why you are who you are. Well, I love that. I got little chill bumps talking about it. Because that's a gift though. Don't you agree? I mean, like, it kind of makes me want to cry a little bit because not all of us get that. But yet it's a beautiful thing that we all get to learn our journey as we walk along it, right? And if we're open to opening up and letting people see who we really are, I think that life is just has so much more beauty in it. Yeah. So failures. Do you have failures, Jennifer? And you said you do, and you learn from them and you grow from them. So what are some of your biggest, would you consider, I never consider anything a failure anyway. Like you kind of said, it's like a quote unquote thing. It's a learning opportunity. But what are some of your biggest trying moments where you felt like you were failing in that moment, but then you had a really big learning and growing moment?
Gosh, do you want me to get my diary?
Do you journal?
Well, in my mind, I want to be that person. I really do, but it's just, not going to happen.
Okay.
All right. Failures. And I'm going to just tell you the first one that came to my mind, but I have a million of them. And like you said, that word is kind of weird, but when I got married, we quickly got pregnant with our first son. And once I had him, I didn't know it was postpartum. I totally thought I was fine. I just didn't want to answer the door or the phone, and I didn't want to see anybody or shower. But I was great. I felt awesome. So I gained almost 100 pounds after I had him. After.
Wow.
And it became this badge of, embarrassment. I was really, really embarrassed. And I didn't want anyone that I went to high school with or anyone that even came to our wedding, I didn't want to see them. I didn't want them to see what I had allowed myself to do to my body. And I felt like such a failure because I wanted to be healthy for my kids. I wanted them to be healthy. I knew it was holding me back in a lot of ways. Like I couldn't just get on a bike and ride with my kids. Like my body hurt because I had done this to my body. And so that felt like such a huge failure. And God is so funny because I feel like he just winked at me and said, I got you. And so he sent me an opportunity with a health and wellness company. I tried the products
Mm-hmm.
and it released me from all that I had literally been carrying around with me. And it actually freed me to be able to help other women that were in that same position. And it just gave me a courage and a tenacity. So when I see a failure, like I said, you say, what is this here to teach me? If you live your life assuming that everything's a door and you don't know what's on the other side of that door, but if you can always assume the best, this thing that you're going through might be hard. I had a miscarriage a couple of years ago, and that was hard. And I was such a judgy person. Before that, I think, well, I mean, you're lucky that it was early on, or, it's not that bad. I did not understand how soul shattering it was
Mm-hmm.
to lose a baby, even if it was only 12 weeks. And so that completely stopped me in my tracks, but I knew that was a door. I thought, I don't know what this door is, but I'm going to walk through it. And we ended up adopting, and it wasn't the baby I thought. It ended up being basically a grown man with a mustache. He was a teenager, 13 when we got him. But wow, I mean, would I have chosen to go through that hard if I still knew that it would end up with our son? I'm going to say yeah. And so if life is going to hand me these really hard moments, I'm going to assume it's because it's that setup instead of the setback. Have you heard that? This isn't a
Yeah.
setback, the setup.
Yes. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so can we go there for a minute about the adoption? So how
Yeah.
did that all transpire? So you lost, and I'm so sorry. I've been through loss as well. I lost a baby when I was 6 months pregnant,
Mm.
and it's hard. It's soul shattering, like you said. However, I know that it taught me empathy and compassion on a level that I never would have had otherwise. And believe me, I would do anything to have him here today.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it was setting me up to be where I am today. So I completely understand that. So after your loss, how did the adoption come about? What did that look like?
I had a longing to give love, and I have people under my roof that I have that love to give to, but I had this longing that I couldn't figure out how to fill. And maybe when I had postpartum, I was filling that longing with food. I'm not sure. We all have these little God-shaped holes that we're looking to fill with the wrong things, but I just had this longing for love. And I happened to see another gal that's in our same company post about having a girl come stay with her for a month in the summer, that she was from Ukraine, and that they were helping her, sending her home with clothes and giving her the time of her life, really, and just connecting with her and loving her. And they still have that relationship to this day. It's really a beautiful program. And I thought, let's do that. It's almost Christmas. Let's bring someone into our home. Let's show them love. Let's show them what a family looks like. Let's be a light. Let's bring the mission field into our home. And I really did legitimately think we would just do that for that 4 weeks and that would be it. But what a fool. There's no way you're going to bring someone into your home and then be like, okay, bye. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I wanted him to have a forever home. And so that's how God filled that longing for love, because although I'll tell you something, a lot of people go into adoption with almost like a hero complex where I'm going to save someone. And imagine being on the butt end of that. Would you want to be the person having to be saved? Like they only adopted me because they thought it was the right thing, or they only adopted me because
for their ego.
Right. Gosh, that's so hard to hear. And so I had to I call it a litmus test, maybe because I have a biology degree, but I had to litmus test that. I'm like, am I doing this so that I could be the hero? Am I doing this so I can say, I have adopted? I didn't want that to be for him, for his story. And that's really hard. And so once he came into our home permanently, then a new kind of hard started, because what happens is you've got 4 kids, The oldest has always been the oldest. The youngest has always been the youngest. The middles had always been the middle. They all knew their giftings. They all knew their role. And now there's someone new. And it's all shuffled and everybody's moved and I remember sitting on the porch swing with he was, gosh, maybe 11 at the time. And he had his head on my shoulder and he was bawling, just bawling into my shoulder, wiping his nose on my shirt. And he said, Mom, I've always been the one you called to fix things. And you don't call me anymore. You call him. And I didn't even know that. He said, I was the fixing one. And now you ask him to fix everything. And so it shuffled all of them. And then I began to resent that. I resented that my children had to go through this hard until I realized, wow, they're getting the hard that allows them to be transparent. That same thing that we started talking about in the beginning. I don't want them to have always easy. And man, if they could just struggle under my roof so that I can be there to give them the wisdom that goes along with that struggle, look at what they'll become. Think about all that they'll learn from that and what that will do for them in the future. So that was a hard year. I heard that there was a hard year after adoption, but I didn't believe it. I thought that won't happen. You know, we're going to go to counseling and it's going to be great. And it was hard. It was really, really hard. He wasn't hard. He was fantastic. He probably had no idea. He was living his best life while we were like, this is hard. Why do we do that?
Yeah, just trying to shift with how the dynamics had changed.
Yes.
And what that new looked like and what that meant as far as your day-to-day life, right? And I can imagine that for your children, right? Because did you make a decision as a family to do this? Yeah. So, and everyone was on board.
Everyone was on board. But then of course you hear afterwards, well, Mom, how can you say that someone should live in an orphanage and not live in our home? These are some hard topics, right?
Right.
The kids even knew the right and the wrong. And I think about this in a spiritual sense. I can't ever say that my kids being involved in adoption is a bad thing, because it is such a beautiful picture for them of what I believe our faith is. And I also feel like it's a beautiful picture for them of love is hard and love grows. And I would say that they love him more today than they did then. And learning to adjust and learning to be compassionate and learning to sometimes have to go without so that someone else can go with. These are all the lessons that we're learning and still learning. And then I guess as a mom of 5 now, if you're a pie, I had so much pie to give to each kid. And now I had to divvy up the portions a little bit. And he came very delayed with his schooling. So now we have another kid that we need to catch up and get him through. And Lord Jesus, save us all when he does math. It's like,
wow. Yeah, I can feel you on that. I have a 15-year-old and math is for real. Right?
yeah.
Oh, well, what a beautiful though experience for your kids to learn at such a young age. Mm-hmm. And to have learn the true meaning and really get to experience to have a giving heart and to give of yourself in a way that is very selfless, and learn that you aren't always right. It's not always just about you.
Mm-hmm.
So what a great role model you are for them in leading them in that way, Jennifer. I didn't realize that about you. I've known you for 8 years, not well, but I've known you and I had no idea. So that's something new I learned today about you. Thank you for sharing. Mm-hmm. So how have you seen that kind of parlay over into other areas of your life now, or your children's lives, and how y'all walk daily in everyday life?
You were thinking about that question and I was already thinking about that answer. I thought, what's interesting? When you learn that there's struggle and you learn sometimes you make yourself less so that someone else can be more. I mean, when you function in a family, that is going to happen.
Right.
Turns, and I'll try to take my kids on their own special dates with me so that they have that time one-on-one. I realized this has actually bled over into my marriage, because I'm a really strong personality and I really do want my way like 99% of the time. And I really can't help it that I'm right every time. I can't.
I love that.
My poor husband. Well, I think that adopting and the struggle of that has shown me a new way to operate in my marriage. And ironically, the first 10 years of our marriage were hard, like making you want to lose your hair kind of hard. We just butted heads constantly. And yet we were in it. And it wasn't until I'd say the last 8 or 9 years, which has been in the time that I've been with the company I'm with, the last 8 or 9 years, we've learned how to understand each other. But particularly once we did the adoption, I think that has grown me to show me that it doesn't have to always be me that comes out on top. I don't have to fight for my rights. I don't have to worry that I'm going to be diminished or that my feelings don't matter, because it's not really about that. It's about everybody getting their turn and everybody having a chance and everybody getting those special moments. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
This is
Well,
great therapy, Jamie.
Bills in the mail. Okay. Just kidding. No. Okay. Well, so can you give some examples of how that has, like, something that's transpired where you were like, man, this has really helped? Like one prime example?
Well, then you're going to think I'm a really bossy, you know what, when
No,
I
I won't. I'm
stuff.
bossy too. It's okay. You know what? We're not bossy. We're just strong leaders. That's what I like to say.
My leadership skills are like on
Amazing. And me too.
Well, it's funny because my husband's a great, he just has a servant's heart. He is a helper beyond helper. And I rely on that probably too much. And in that, he has these passions that I really wasn't making time for because I needed help. And you're their father too. And you live here too. And I wanted his help with everything. But he never got the outlet of something he's passionate about. And one of those things is farming, which is like at the bottom of my passion list. Actually, it's in the negative area of my passion list. And so I'm like, dirt, heat, straw, animals, I'm out. So he loves that. And I never made time for it. His family has a farm. And in the last 2 years, he goes up every Saturday. He's up there for 8, 9, 10 hours, comes home dirty with a weird accent. And he loves it. And so for him to have that space, I wasn't making time for that before. I wasn't understanding, hey, it's not all about me. Like,
were you almost minimalizing it or minimizing it? I don't know if I said that right. Minimizing it versus like, that's not valuable because you didn't want it type of thing.
That's right. I said, why would you do that? We have other things we need to do here around the house, or we have things to do with the kids. And, you know, it's funny, Mom, if you're listening, I'm so sorry. My mom is a very strong personality, and my parents have been married for a really long time, 40 years. And my sister is a really strong personality. If you look at all of our marriages, we're all still married and we're all going on to decades of our marriage, but us women, it's no joke. Like,
y'all got some strong pants going on in your families. Is that what you're saying?
Goodness gracious. I mean, it's a lot. And so I love my leadership and I love my strength, but there is a part of me that wants to bend. And there is a part of me that wants to be the meek. It wants to be the person that is willing to sacrifice. And that it's a struggle. I'm going to say it's a struggle to do that. But what a gift when you do. I think when I actually do those things, I guess I kind of want praise. I want him to say, I just can't eat. I want to tell you how much it means to me that you let me do something I'm passionate about. But when you think about it, he lets me do that every day with zero requirement of appreciation or gratitude. I think life is a series of realizations on how we can become better lovers of people, how we can become better servants. And I can see that happening even currently in my life and in the people that God placed in my life too. I mean, each of my kids has their own special thing that they like to trigger me with. You're
putting it kindly.
Putting it really kindly. I mean, one might be as simple, the way they chew. Everybody's got their thing.
You breathe too hard. Oh my goodness.
Your eyes, they keep blinking up and down and up and down. How weird. It's so much.
You're in my space. Back up. Yeah. I not that I identify, I promise. Well, yeah, right. But anyway, yeah, I hear you.
I'm never cooking soup again because just one child, the way they eat it, it's like not worth it. Off the menu. Off the menu. Well, I guess what I'm saying is in life, you're constantly learning how to bend. And that was not something that I ever did before. And I saw that strength in my mom. My dad was in the Army, so he was always gone. He was at Operation Desert Storm. He was in Haiti. My mom had to do so much alone. And if you think about it, she was 24 years old And she had a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old living on an army base in Germany while my dad was deployed. Like, think about what that would feel like.
She had to have a lot of strength within her to walk through that, I would imagine. Like foreign area, like probably didn't know the language. I'm sure the people on base spoke English, but did you learn German? I'm curious. That's not kind of squirrel moment, but did you?
A little bit, and lots of cuss words.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, fun. I was young, and I love the food there too, by the way, incidentally. And as my mom was teaching me that strength just in the way she modeled it, I, for the longest time, thought I was an 8 on the Enneagram because I want to protect myself and I want justice. And I was taught strength through protecting myself. I mean, think about what my mom had to do to be able to make the life that she had. I learned that strength. So I thought that was the 8 in me, but it never served me. That 8 didn't ever serve me. And if you don't know what an 8 is, that's a challenger, that's an asserter, that's someone that always assumes that someone has the worst intent for you. Like, you're always on the protective mode. And I thought that that's what I was, but it should have served me. And instead it didn't. It kept me from trusting. It kept me from being that soft and malleable and assuming best intent. And so I actually hired an Enneagram coach, which makes me sound so bougie. It really does. I have an Enneagram coach.
Well, you led me to her too. So if you're bougie, I'm bougie.
Okay, guilty together.
Okay.
Well, she helped me identify, Jen, you're a 2, you're a helper. And I know that. I knew that, but you go to 8 in unhealth. And that is so true. Because anytime I have that strength, it's never serving me or anyone else. It's not a good thing. Goodness doesn't come from that 8-ness.
With you particular, because there are some natural 8s that serves them very well, right?
And that's right. If you are true and natural 8, it is a beautiful gifting. It's used in all the best ways. I was using it in the wrong ways to protect myself.
Yeah. Okay. So as an example, that would be like what?
Oh, I would never trust anybody when they asked me to do something. I would assume ill intent. I would read into every message, everything you said. I'd think, what do you really mean by that? Like, it was always assuming someone didn't have the best intent when they reached out to me, when they talked to me. Mm-hmm. And in particular, okay, so for example, men in my life, I don't know what this is, but because I have a strong personality, I assume men think that I don't know my place. I mean, we're getting
wow.
Yeah.
I hear you though. Okay. Or you're too much for them. That's what you automatically assume.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay. I hear you.
And so I like almost purposely, my family doctor is a female, my dentist is a female, everything's female, because I don't like that feeling of they're going to think I'm too much, or they're going to think I don't know my place. And
so has that caused you to shrink back in life some?
Oh, 1,000,000%.
Okay. I hear you.
I actually had a coach at one time when I was sharing this. He made me make a list of every man in my life and the good that they had brought to it. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, I could have done 1,000,000 Kegels before that answer. Okay.
You crack me up, Jennifer. Okay, I missed part of it because I was laughing so hard. You could have done 1,000,000 Kegels. Why?
Before that list would have been written. It was one of the harder assignments I've ever had. And it's just because I wasn't looking for it. And that whole idea of you find what you're looking for.
Yeah.
So I was looking for examples of how I was right, that men didn't see me in the light I'd want them to. And then once I really allowed myself to see the men in my life that were pouring into me. I mean, look at my husband. That's a great example. It's a hard way to live when you assume ill intent from everyone.
Oh,
yeah. And I try to teach my kids that. I said it to them yesterday. I said, just assume best intent. Assume that.
People do the best they can with the tools that they have in the present moment. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Good.
And well, I believe there are some real true evil people in this world, but I think for the majority that most people literally are doing the very best they know how. Yeah. And I can really identify with you, Jennifer, because I think, my dad died when I was very young. I was 5 years old and grew up, had 4 sisters and a mom. So it's all women. So I was very on the defense and very like having to take care of my own and on the watch out of very alert to my
Yeah.
surroundings because I thought someone was always maybe going to try to take advantage of me in a certain way or get one over on you. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I feel you. And thank you for being so open and honest about that, because I think a lot of people walk through life like that. And I bet if I was a betting woman, and I kind of am, take a lot of risks, that you feel so free now not to have to walk in that light anymore.
Gosh. My mom promised me when I turned 40 that the shroud of caring what people think would fall off. And I wouldn't say I'm totally nude from that right now, but I would tell you it's in a very many ways it's true. It's so freeing to start to be able to live your life without worry and wondering. It's so freeing just to be able to think to yourself, really, what does that person's opinion matter? Or really, what was that thought serving me? How was it benefiting me? Not at all. It was doing everything wrong. It was actually stopping me in my tracks. I struggle with mindset, and I think I've seen a couple of gals in my life that have gone through really hard. I've got one she's lost her husband, and Alita.
Yeah. Oh, what a beautiful voice she has.
She sounds just like Cece Winans, and I'm always begging her to let me sing backup. I'm telling you, it'd be awesome.
Well, anytime she sings at our Plexus events, like in Hawaii or whatever, I'm out there and I'm like, yes, like I just getting down to her music. She's so soulful and powerful. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, it's Alita. She has a new last name now, right? Langford, right. And she's on Apple, iTunes, right?
Yeah. I think she's even on Spotify. And literally, when I listen to her, I wish you could see me lip syncing it in my house. It is amazing.
Yeah.
It's like a full bodied singing. The way that she sings, it'll start like coursing through your blood. It's
best. Almost like Adele. It's very deep and powerful and soulful. Yes. Soulful is the word that comes to mind. I don't know. Very feeling, right? Like it gives you chills. She has such an amazing, I'm with you on that. Yeah.
Her song Rise Up probably fits this podcast really well.
Yeah. I use her music a lot on my stories.
Oh,
when my team ranks up, I use that as the background music. Yeah, I use her a lot. I love her voice. I've always said if I ever get remarried, I'm like, please come sing at my wedding. She's probably like, whatever. But I know she'd be like, I'm a little bit past that. But like, please just do one cameo. It's very, it touches you.
She's got a great voice.
Yeah.
And a lot of her songs came from true and real trial. I mean, actual hard, the kind of hard that makes you not want to get out of bed. But yet she got out of bed. And I see her mindset. She's so good. I mean, she's so good. And you just think to yourself, if she can overcome that, then anything that I'm going to face, I can overcome. And I think perspective helps so much. When I look at what she goes through, I say, if Alita can do it, I could do it. Or if my mom could do it, I could do it.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the power in sharing our real life stories and being transparent and like just speaking your truth? Because I'm listening to a book right now. A friend of mine just recommended, and it reminds me of what we're talking about. I'm going to look at the title right now. It's called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Okay.
It's so good. And the thing that this is reminding me of with that is that I believe we are so conditioned and programmed in our life to show up and everything's perfect, right? But when we really start telling our truth and just saying how it really is, we can come together and help support one another and empower each other to live your best life, to live who you were born to be, to like speak your truth to where you don't have to hide behind a mask anymore. And that's real living, because guess what? Everybody's got their hard. And if you say, that's one of the things he said in the book when I was listening to it earlier, everybody has their hard. And if they say they don't, they're a liar. I mean, everybody, it might be different versions of hard, different levels of hard, but everybody's got their hard. And so when we share our story, it allows people to go, me too, and recognize that it can look different. And if she can do it or he can do it, I can do it. And that's why I love doing this podcast, for instance. And I love talking to people like you, Jennifer, because you're not timid or too scared to stand up and share your story in a way where people go, okay, yeah, I kind of feel that way too, or I went through something similar. And I believe that's what changes the world.
Oh, Okay, now you're talking my language, because if we can just use that hard for something, like, could there be some
Oh,
benefit to that hard? Let's just make good from it. And
yeah.
I heard the best thing. It said, there's no such thing as halfway drowning. If you're drowning, you're drowning, right? And that helped me, where if I saw somebody that was going through something that I deemed way worse than what I was going through, I would diminish, like, I wouldn't feel that I was valued. I couldn't actually have that hard time because it's not as bad as hers. Like, you're going through more than me. But yet it was my hard struggle that I needed to work through. And I did need compassion, and I did need a friend to come alongside me. And so I had to hear that. There's no such thing as halfway drowning. We all have our hard, and we all have to have that connection, like you just said, where we can help each other through it. And I think every time that I try to mask myself, my mask is
Mhm.
weight. My mask is putting on weight, and that keeps you at a distance, and it keeps you from coming into my life. I don't want to post on social media. It is my protective barrier. It is
Mm.
exactly what I do to shrink back.
Well, okay, so the name of my podcast is Cope and Land. Well, happens to be my maiden name, Copeland, right? But that is what this is all about. It's about, we all have the things that we cope with, right? And usually they're not very healthy.
Right.
It can be, whether it's eating, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling. I mean, the list goes on, right? But then you can land and learn not to just cope anymore, but actually thrive and work through it and rise up, like a Lita Langford song,
Yeah.
and live and be okay with knowing that there's always painful moments. There will be throughout eternity of your life, not to get too on anyone, but I believe we are all sinners. We are all imperfect, and we're all going to have sometimes not so great things happen to us. However, the suffering part is optional.
Ooh, can you say that one more time? We're all gonna have our hard.
Yeah, we're all going to have our painful moments. We're all going to have our ish that we go through, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it's going to be there. That's just the way life is. But we get to choose whether we want to suffer in it or not.
That's
So
so good.
it's that quote, my favorite quote that my heart and thought partner, my life coach shared with me: pain is inevitable, suffering is optional.
Mm.
And so when we come together like you and I are today to share your story, when I come on and share my story, when we're in just a normal conversation, maybe in the checkout line of the grocery, you never know who you're going to impact, right? I believe that allows other people to see I'm not the only one in pain, because I believe in life we have learned and been programmed and conditioned to, oh, everything's okay, everything's great, right? When you're really pained inside. And it's okay to say, I'm in pain right now, I need help, or I need someone to hear me. We all want to be seen and heard. Don't you agree?
100%. And when I look at my kids, and I think there's this parenting craze right now where it's like, protect your kids, protect your kids, protect your kids. Which
Yes.
every kid has to be protected. I am 100% behind that, except for the fact that we protect them so much that they don't experience hard under our supervision.
Amen.
And they have to. And my daughter, I signed her up for basketball, and she was really nervous to the point where her belly hurt, her hands were shaking. She's 8 years old at the time. And my mom said, Jen, it's a basketball team. Like, why does she have to do it? And I said, because in these moments, she will learn that she can face anything. And she did. And I have this video of her making the most amazing basket. My husband and I jumped up. We literally cried. We're in this like tiny little church building, and I mean, we're bawling. And I'm just saying to myself, these are the moments. Like, can we get a movie crew in here? This is like a sports movie in the making, because you should have seen the girl trying to walk in. She was terrified. But as her mom, I got to push her. I got to push her off the diving board and say, you can swim.
Yeah.
You've got floaties on. You could do this. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I hear you. My daughter just went through something similar. She's she just turned 12. She's super tall. I'm 5'5" and a quarter. Gotta add my quarter in, girl. She's already 5'6", 12 years old. Like both of my kids, I don't know. I must have eaten a lot of like chicken pumped full of hormones when I was pregnant with both of them. But my son's 15, like 65 feet tall. So anyway, she really wanted to go out for the cheerleading team this year. It's the first year that she could do it. And she said, but Mom, I'm too tall. And I said, oh no, ma'am. Look, you have the right to feel however you want to feel, but please don't ever let me hear you say that again. Maybe other people are too short. Okay. Like it doesn't matter. If you want to do it, do it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, that's okay. You don't ever have to do it again, but try it. But don't ever limit yourself on anything physical about yourself or anything about who you are. You are wonderfully and perfectly made just as you are. And so, yeah, like, so pushing them along as parents is part of, like, to me, the beautiful thing. And even if she gets in it and hates it or discovers like this is kind of sucks, I'm still going to make her walk through it, finish what she started. Is that what you do with your kids? Make them complete it?
Yes. And I'm getting emotional thinking about this. My oldest is autistic and I've spent his entire life protecting him. He gets easily embarrassed, sounds bother him, and I want to protect him so much so that I never gave him the keys to maturity. I never gave him the keys to responsibility. I wanted him to play small because it helped me feel comfortable where I didn't have to see him struggling or suffering.
How honest and transparent and big is that of you to actually own and admit that? No, because a lot of parents wouldn't. So anyway, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but wow.
He wanted a job. And so he was online looking. And of course you have to be 18 for a lot of the things he wanted to do, but they had a job at Walmart. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I want him working at Walmart. But then I thought, hey, he could work at Walmart and he could be a rising star as long as he just shows up every day and does what he needs to do. Like, this could actually be a good thing. So he applied, he got the job. And I remember taking him to the job interview and he threw up in the front seat of the car because he was so nervous. Aww. And I said, do you want to go back home? He said, no, I'm just going to do it. Let's go. And even thinking about that now, just that desire to overcome that fear, he went in, he had literally vomited in the car and I know. And he goes in and I have a picture of him walking into the building. He doesn't tie his shoes. He's very shy and he did it and he's still doing it. And he's working 30 hours a week and he's saving money. And I said to myself, I really had thought, you know what? He'll probably live in our basement for the rest of our life. Like, that's just what he's going to do. Cause I just don't want him to experience the hard. I don't want him to go to work and get corrected because he didn't look in someone's eyes or he didn't speak clearly or he was too embarrassed and things like that have happened. Actually, there was a little girl that couldn't find her parents and he could have gotten on the loudspeaker, but it was too embarrassing to him. Like, he couldn't overcome that fear to do it. So he had to take her up to customer service. And I realized this boy can do it. And I should have seen that all along, but I didn't want to because it was easier for me to let him play small than for him to go and take the risks. And I told him, I said, you're our oldest, so you're totally getting, like, we're going to figure this out. By the time your sister gets to your age, we're going to be killing it. I said, sorry. Sorry about that.
Sorry, you had to be the guinea pig. No, yeah. I hear you on that. And so if any of my son's friends are listening to this, they're going to kill me. But I tied my son's shoes till he was 8 years old. Mm-hmm. I lost a son like I mentioned earlier, between my daughter and my son. Yeah. And so I think I went overboard in being protective and wanting to do everything for him and not have, it was a lot of my own stuff. Right. And I was limiting him in so many ways. And now he will look at me like, Mom, back off. I got this. Like, he's finally learned to, like, speak up and say those things to me, but I overfunctioned for him in so many other ways in my life. So I totally hear you. But when we allow them to kind of fly and stand back and stop putting that lid, right, that leveling up lid on them and take it off and let them, they'll go fly right out of the roof. So good for him.
I know, it's great. And you know, what's funny is I look back at my teenage years and I would say, why did my parents let me do that? Or what were they thinking?
Right.
And now I'm realizing how brave, like how terrifying that had to have been to let me get in the car and take off driving the day that I got my license. Like, I never even saw the fear in them. And now I talk to them, they're like, are you kidding me? Like, we hardly slept. We were worried to death, but they knew their job was to create a future adult. And I have forgotten that a lot. Like, I want to protect.
I'm with you. I am with you. But you know what? Doesn't it make you proud though, when you have those moments with your children where they make the right decision or they make the right choice. You're like, and then it reminds you as a parent, you're like, okay, I've done all right. I'm doing okay. Check. Right? Like, whoo. Because sometimes you hold your breath for dear life. I don't know if you do. I do. My face is turning blue. I'm holding it so hard. Like, and he'll remind me, Mom, I'm not doing anything dumb. You've taught me right. And I'm like, okay.
It feels good when you see those moments. I had a lady at church say to me, Jennifer, it always works out. And I was probably fretting. Maybe I think one of my sons couldn't read and he was in second grade, or there was something that I thought, you don't understand. Like, this is the end of the world. And it always works out. And I'm thinking at the time, you don't understand. Like, you might think that, but you haven't been here.
Mm-hmm.
And she was right. Everything always has its way of working out. So in the moment, it feels like crisis central, like it's the end. And then you forget that in the future and you think, I can't believe I ever worried about that. And what a waste of those precious moments full of worry. My two youngest daughters have really bad anxiety. And we read this book by Sissy Goff, and it's so good. It's Braver, Stronger, Smarter. And I'm learning from it. And she talks about naming that worry. And she said, give it a name. So my 8-year-old, or she's almost 9, she said, can we call him jerk face? And in normal circumstances, I'd say no, but I said, you know what, let's call him jerk face. And I'm living my life now, equipping them with tools to become adults. And in that process, it's helping me to become a better adult. So what a great lesson that we can grow with our kids and grow with each other.
Well, and sometimes they are our greatest teachers.
Yeah, that's very true.
Right?
Except when they roll their eyes, and then it's like, oh, you did not.
Don't make me slap them eyeballs at your head, right? Yeah. Well, this has been beautiful. Well, like I said, when we started this, you are probably, if not one of the most hilarious. You find the humor in everything. So where did that come from for you? Is it just your personality? Was it, I mean, what do you find funny in life? Like, that may sound like an odd question, but you literally make me pee my pants laughing when you talk. Like, I would love to sit and just laugh with you for hours. So,
that would be great. Let's make a plan.
Okay.
You know, people have said this to me and I get really defensive about it. They say, you know, humor is a protective measure. Like, people use humor to not have to be honest, or people use humor so they don't have to experience hard. And I will stand by this. I don't use humor for that reason. Humor is my gifting. It's my superpower. It's what I do.
Oh, so I love that you just said that. It's your superpower.
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. And I see what it does for people around me. Like, some people make casseroles. I make the best freaking joke you've ever heard in your whole life.
Yes, you do. You absolutely do.
Yeah. There ain't no cream of chicken up in my jokes. All right.
Right. Yeah. I love to laugh. And I mean, yeah. So growing up, there was this group of my friends, and they always we always used to joke. We were young and kind of just say stupid things sometimes, but at the same time, we were all really funny. Well, we thought we were. And we were like, you have the gift. Well, Jennifer, you have the gift of humor. Like, you just do. You have that gift. You know, some people just don't have natural humor, and that's okay. They make a great casserole, maybe. Yeah. But you genuinely do. So who makes you laugh? I would love to know that. Who brings a big smile to your face and gets you belly laughing?
My husband. And here's why. And literally hardly anyone makes me laugh. Like, when they do, it makes me stop and go, oh my gosh. I'll say, nobody makes me laugh, and you just made me laugh. I just don't laugh. No, I don't. I laugh at myself, but my husband, when he laughs at me or he laugh at a funny show, it is ridiculous. Like, if you saw it, people come over just to watch it. It is the best
to watch him laugh.
Yes, it is hilarious. And so a lot of his friends he grew up with, if they heard this, they would know exactly what I'm talking about. That can get me chuckling so hard. And I had a girlfriend in college that she invited me to go to dinner with all these friends of hers that I'd never met. And she invited me basically to be the entertainment. I think that's the theory I have.
Right.
And the whole night, she's like, this girl's hilarious. You gotta meet her. She's hilarious. Well, I can't be funny on purpose. Like, I cannot be funny if that's the expectation.
Don't put you on point. It's just natural for you. Right.
I was the least interesting person you've ever met. I mean, it almost felt like someone had made me completely mute. I couldn't hardly talk. And then I kept thinking, I could say this. No, don't say that. That'd be weird. I could say that. Oh, that wouldn't even be funny. I overthought everything. It was awkward. So awkward. So I can only be funny if you don't expect it, or if it's
Right.
not the right environment for it, then it comes out. Like if
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to be funny, it's gonna happen. It's bad.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. Like sometimes laughing, not that we want to make fun of other people, but laughing at other people's expense can probably be one of the greatest things, not in a mean way, but like just like coming up with moments of what's truly happening in life and just laughing, because it fills my heart when I love to laugh. So even though I sound like have a cackle, but okay. So, now we know we were talking earlier, you stated that obviously you and I are in the same industry of helping others with their health and wellness. How did you, I want to know who introduced you to this world, and what really was it? Obviously you were feeling healthier, but what was it that really inspired you to get into it? And then you zoomed to the top, right? Like you've been at the top of the company for how long now? Like has it been 8 years, or you've really been here 8 years? I don't know exactly.
Let's see. I joined 8 years ago, and about a year later, I hit Emerald, and then maybe 6 months later, I hit the top of the company. It's funny, people know the date and the time. I don't think about no. It's funny too, because I am a driven person and I do have goals, but that's not really why I'm here. That's not
Right.
what I'm doing. And when I was introduced to Plexus, my friend Suzanne, I had met her on a mission trip when I was 20 years old, and
Suzanne Clinton.
That's right.
She's your sponsor?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, wonderful.
So we met, we spent 1 week together in Mexico, serving and learning and growing. And then we literally never spoke again. I mean, there wasn't Facebook. We just didn't, we exchanged phone numbers. I'm sure I washed it in the washing machine when I put my jeans in the wash. And we never talked again. And when social media started, Facebook, I started looking for her by her maiden name, and I found her. And then maybe a week later, she started sharing about Plexus. And I ended up trying that. And she was really good. She doesn't know this, but my personality, if you give me really definable, measured, like this is what you have to do, I'll do it. And I won't even really question it. And so she said, I need you to start working on a Facebook post. And I was like, okay. And I need you to get 3 people so that it'll cover the cost of your products. Okay. And so once I did that, then it gave me a taste of what it felt like to be celebrated and what it felt like to contribute to my family's income, because we were on food stamps. Like I'm talking like water turned off when you're in the shower and going to the neighbor's house and rinsing your hair out. Water hose. Yeah, that kind of thing, because I wanted to stay home with my kids. So we really struggled a lot. And when I realized, because I love my kids so much, when I realized that I could buy them tennis shoes, I could get them into music lessons, I could pay our mortgage, I could buy groceries with our own money, including meat, game on. Like nothing was going to stop me. I don't care what you think about me. I am going to do this. I'm going to do it to the best of my ability, and I will make a difference. And I did.
Wow. So you and I started around the same time then. And you're right. It is life-changing. So your driving force, what I'm hearing you was really being able to provide for your children in a way that you weren't otherwise able to prior, right? And it sounds like things were kind of rough prior to starting.
My husband hates talking about that because he was such a hard worker and such a great provider, but his superpower is theology. And nobody talking about God is going to be out there making, well, most people aren't going to make $1 gajillion. I mean, he made a living wage, but we had a big family and I homeschooled and I wasn't contributing. So it was,
you were sacrificing for the choices that you wanted, the time with your family. Right. And now enters divinely, right? Speaking of God, comes into your life, and then, wow, now you're flourishing. And how many lives would you say you've touched since being here?
That is a hard one to talk about, because people say if you hadn't said yes, then I wouldn't have what I have right now. And I don't have a hard time believing that, because I think, well, you would have done it without me.
Right.
And I start thinking, no, they really wouldn't have. They wouldn't have heard about this. I know they wouldn't have. And I'm talking, I worked, and people say, oh, I just fit it in the nooks and crannies. No, I didn't.
Yeah,
I made it my full-time job. And I did that because I knew. You
knew what you knew. Yeah.
Right. And I made it my full-time job. And I gave up some night times and kisses and cuddles with the kids. And I gave up a lot to make that happen in that first year. But I did that for the most residual income you can possibly imagine. Like, what a gift. I don't ever have to ask permission to take a day off. I don't ever have to worry that we can't pay our water bill. It was worth all of that and more. And so how many lives have I changed? Honestly, I could say thousands,
Wow.
maybe even more than that, and I'm not done.
That just gave me chills. I'm right there with you because it's not only, I'm very much like you, has not only changed my life and given me such freedom in so many different ways, but there's no bigger gift to me, no check, whatever amount to the gift that to watch other people be able to experience the exact same thing, not only with their health, but really that the freedom to be with their families and do as they like and just be able to. It always reminds me, this is probably just a really bad time to say this, but I say it anyway. The movie Pretty Woman, where she goes, I say who, I say when, I say. That's my Plexus one-liner.
I know every line to that movie, Jamie.
Okay, well, we're going to have to get together. We can reenact it together when we're in Mexico in a few weeks. All right. So really one last thing. Thank you, first off, for being so generous for saying yes, for being generous with your time with me today. I've always wanted to sit down and really have a conversation with you like this. So I'm very thankful and appreciative that you said yes.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you. And one last question. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, if that's okay. I'm a quote girl. I love quotes, like affirmations, things to, I live by them. To me, it gives me intention. It reminds me of who I am and what I'm capable of. And when I'm feeling down, it can bring me up and help me rise up. And is there a quote that you just absolutely love and that you live by that you remind yourself of in moments of when you really need it? And if so, would you be open to sharing that with us?
May your pelvic floor, perseverance, and coffee always be strong. You think I'm kidding. I'm not. I mean it.
Please repeat it. May your pelvic floor, please.
Perseverance and coffee always be strong.
I love it. That is probably one of the best ones I've had yet. That is I'm going to write that one down. Well, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for just being who you are. You really, you make the world a better place.
Oh gosh.
You really do.
Thank you.
And I'm just excited that I get to know you and that all of you listening have been able to experience Jennifer today. And I hope you've had some great takeaways. And again, thank you, Jennifer. And thank you to all of you for tuning in today, and much love to you.